So how do you feel about race?
It's just kind of there. I don't think I like focus on it or anything.
I've probably privileged from it more than I know, but it's not something that's really been a reoccurring issue.
I think with history has like set its mark and has kind of like changed how people in the future think about race. I think it's kind of like the way we think right now is because of what happened in the past.
I'm from a totally different continent, which is Africa, and
Yeah.
and where I'm from, we don't really pay attention to stuff like that, like racism and all that, and everything just changes. Like when I move here, because I see that people tend to be categorized in a certain way. You see, you have white, black, and all that, and it was really different for me. So
I'm from the same continent, Africa, but I don't. To me, race, I don't care about it that much. So
I don't think race should define somebody at all, and it doesn't matter what color or where you're from. Everyone's equal in my opinion.
We're so much more mobile as a species than we ever were, and more interconnected than we ever were. So I feel like now's the best time to draw the line between all these opinions and ideals we had.
I learned that race is only a social construct, so it was just, created by people. So it's not actually a real thing, it's just people are people.
The younger generations are seeing the bad notions from that, or from the older generation, so we're looking at things and going, well, this doesn't make any sense, why are we doing this crap?
No one's born racist, right. And if we have people and teachers, kids coming up through their whole education system knowing that everybody's equal, if you just teach them at a young age that everybody's set on an equal playing field,
it's how you're raised.
They're a lot more likely to.
Well, I feel like it has something to do with where you're raised too, because here I feel like we don't deal with a lot of racism issues.
So I'm used to a multicultural background. I feel like in smaller cities like Ellensburg, I noticed people haven't seen a lot of things, so there's a lot of things that are new to them.
So looking at other CWU students, would you say that friend groups are clumped together by race or gender? Or do you say it's more diversified and everything?
In Ellensburg,
just around campus.
Yeah.
What do you observe?
Actually, you know what? I see a lot of, races,
Yeah.
because I don't believe in it.
Totally.
I see everyone hanging out with everyone, it doesn't matter about the color, it doesn't matter about, if they're brown, Mexican, black, white, it doesn't matter. I see just the whole, I just see everyone hanging out with everyone.
I mean, personally, yes. You see, I'm not sure that that's necessarily what brings them together. It might just be a coincidence, but, you definitely see, not to pick anybody out in particular, but the foreign exchange students seem to kind of stick together. They all have classes together too, so it could be because of that.
Well, and it also might be their language barrier with us.
Yeah.
They don't speak as good of English, and so but I also see them interacting with people a lot that don't, they get through that language barrier, and then so I see that too.
I think sometimes, I see a lot of groups and cliques, based off of, what your race is and stuff like that. I just think it's nothing, disrespectful. I think a lot of cultures will, love to invite different, races and stuff like that. It's just because, different cultures and different races, understand each other.
if you think you're cool enough not to talk to us, yeah, we keep our own side, But if you wanna really be our friend and then interact with us, yeah, we will always welcome,
I think it matters if you don't know the person. Your first view of somebody, there are stereotypes behind race, so those could come into play. But as long as you get to know someone, then I think race goes out the window.
Now, if we're talking about race, it kind of brings up a different topic, is self-fulfilling prophecy, which is where someone of a certain racial or ethnic group may not be part of a stereotype what other people think of that group, but after a length of time of people prodding and classifying them into that group, they start to become like showing characteristics of that stereotype and other such things. What are your guys' opinion on that? Do you think it's true? Do you think it's, have you seen it before?
When you hear something enough times that you take it into consideration, and after a while you kind of do, like, it would rub off on you as if someone keeps saying something like that to you eventually, that your mindset's going to be set on that. It's going to affect how you live your life and stuff like that.
You know how they say when you hang around a certain crowd, you kind of tend to act the same way? So I kind of think that this self-proclaimed prophecy is kind of, it's like applicable in that sense.
Well, I definitely think a lot of young generations are living our lives because of what's being heard of these stereotypes.
You keep hearing things like that, you just like block it out, don't worry about it. You just keep focusing on what you want to do.
I really agree with this because if you're living in a high society or your parents are rich and they're expecting so much from you, you're gonna work harder to live up to that expectation. But if you're living in poverty and everyone around you, like your teachers and business places are saying you're gonna fail, you're not gonna go anywhere, you're never gonna make it to college or anything, then of course you're gonna think what's the point of even trying?
Well, you're a certain race and you do certain things, so obviously you are this person. This is the only thing that you are. And that's not true, and nobody should be stereotyped.
Honestly, I feel like that example, he just heard all those stereotypes so much, and he kept hearing it. He started to believe and actually believe that maybe that's what he's only good for.
For example, like when you think about Asians, they say all Asians are smart. No matter what, Asians are smart. Like when you say an Asian, that's what you envision. But doesn't necessarily mean that every Asian is smart.
I think you have to be 100% confident in yourself not to fall into that self-fulfilling prophecy what you were just referring to about changing your certain characteristics, because even if you have the tiniest bit of self-doubt, then you're going to be susceptible to other people's thoughts.
Where a lot of people when they hear about Africa, they think about the jungle, and forest and everything, without realizing that's what they envision, because this is what actually the media actually portrays, so that this is what they take as their reality,
Mainly because I think because of media. Media is the one that instills it in all of us. But then again, people live their own lives, they meet their own people, so that's what really matters.
So if you guys see a guy and a girl hanging out alone, around campus or anything, do you assume that they're dating or not?
Yeah.
You answer that question.
That's his question.
Why you guys? Why am I supposed to be the one who's
No, that's your question.
I do what?
Yeah,
I assumed they're dating. Maybe when I was in 8th grade, I was like, man, those guys are probably dating or something. But as you grow older, I don't think much of it. I just think they're friends now.
If you always see them together, yeah, you're gonna think they're dating. It's just
Okay, so if usually when people see a guy and a girl together, they automatically think, oh, they're dating, but that makes me mad, because when I hang out with my guy friends, I'm like, no, I don't date them. I can't just hang out with a guy. Why can't a guy and a girl just be friends?
Where I'm from, because I always try to make a reference, a guy and a girl can be friends. They do stuff together all the time without even having any physical or any intention of being in a relationship or what. So it's common from where I'm from. So I'll be doing that. People will come up to me and be like, hey, dude, are you going out? I see you with a lot of girls. I'm just like, yeah, what's going on? And I'll be like, you know what? Can I be friends with them?
I think this is a great interview or whatever it is. It's great because it did make me think more about how much of influence you can be on someone if you talk to them negatively or positively.
What you guys doing right now, it's a really great thing. Not for me, but for me and for any other person that might actually never encounter maybe interview like this, because stuff like this can actually open people's mind and like allow them to think for themselves.
My perspective of looking at people is going to stay the same, but now that you bring up like questions like that about like the positive influence versus the negative influence, things like that might be something that I pay more attention to, like as I'm walking around, like listening to other people's conversations, kind of like paying attention to things like that.
This might actually have a great impact on them. It might shape the way they think and the way they see